Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar. We will start the webinar in just a few moments. We see a few people joining still, so we will give people another 30, 60 seconds to join, and then we'll be right back to resume the webinar. Okay, we will go ahead and get started with our webinar. Everyone, welcome, and thanks for joining today's webinar, Eliminating the Barriers to Patient Payments. My name is James Easley. I'm the Vice President of Marketing here. I'm not your presenter. Your presenter today is Richard Davis, who is the Director of Customer Success with NexTrust. He's responsible for expanding the relationships and integration with existing partners and overseeing the customer success of the BillFlash product line and NexTrust customer base. Richard has over 20 years of experience in the payment industry, and recently as a partner development executive with AxiomMed. So he has vast experience and knowledge in the technical aspects of the payment industry, and will share that expertise today. Richard's based in Utah, and he's been with the NexTrust for just a few months now. But we're excited to have him on board. We will turn the time over to him. Just one reminder as well: feel free to ask any questions within your webinar panel. We will have a question and answer time at the end, and we can respond throughout the webinar or at the end. And please think of any questions that you have, and we'd love to answer those. Turn the time over to Richard now.
All right. Thanks, James. Good morning or afternoon, everybody. Thank you for spending time with us today. We know it can be a very busy time of year, but we hope you find value in this webinar today. We will be sharing with you a number of trends that are happening in the healthcare space related to patient billing and payments, and how to help you find ways to get paid. We know it's a problem, and we'd be of help today. As James mentioned, I've been in the payment processing space for over 20 years. I was with a company called Authorized.net back in 1998, which is when e-commerce payments really started to boom. And I was one of the first employees with that company. I've been in payments ever since. One thing you might hopefully find of value hearing me speak today is that for the last 10 years of my career, I've been specifically in the payment space in the healthcare segment and finding ways to integrate with healthcare systems and getting patients to pay their bills. So I have a little bit of insight that I'm looking forward to sharing with you today. If you find any of this throughout the next 20 minutes boring or repetitive, forgive me, but hang in there, because we have a little bit of a treat for you guys at the end that we're looking forward to sharing with you. To get started, we want to engage with you a little bit. So I'm going to launch a poll. If you can watch your screens here, I'm going to launch a poll. I'm interested to know something, which is collecting patient payments for your practice becoming easier? Is it about the same as it's always been? Becoming more difficult? Or have you just given up? So I'd like to understand where you might be. And then we're going to get into some trends that are happening. We got about 25% voted right now. Thank you for that. I'll give it another about 15, 20 seconds. before we close the poll. About another 10 seconds here. All right, thank you everybody for participating. I'm going to close that and share with you what everybody had to say. It looks like you're right in the middle, kind of right where we anticipated. It's about the same, right? Or becoming more difficult. That's exactly where we kind of anticipated and we're thinking this might be. So what we're going to share with you today is some trends that are happening that are making it more difficult, but some tools and resources and statistics that are available to you to overcome the barriers, right, to make it easier. And what I want you to know up front and what you can have confidence in is that we have taken the trends and the statistics that we have found related to this very topic, and we've done case studies around it with a number of different practices. So what we're going to share with you today is real-life data. Some of it will be repetitive, but that's because we're trying to help show you what we can do to take care of this. So I'm going to go back to a statement that was made in 2013 by then CEO for Aetna, Mark Bertolini, who at a HIMSS conference stated that patient responsibility will climb to more than 50% of the healthcare dollar by the end of this decade. And we're there. I mean, we are there already. I can tell you that the healthcare dollar in the U.S. economy is exactly that. Out of $5 in the U.S. economy, $1 of that is healthcare, which means we are at about 50 cents out of every $5 in our nation's economy that is patient responsibility. It's incredible. The numbers are staggering. Let's look at some other stats. The amount a consumer must pay now before a health plan pays any portion of their bill has increased by 255% since 2006. Today's American healthcare consumer pays almost 35% of medical expenses out of pocket. That's triple the amount since 1980. And the number of insured Americans pursued by healthcare debt collectors today is 1 out of 5 from patients with high deductible plans. So providers are collecting around maybe 18 to 34 cents on the dollar of what patients owe, if that. 67% of providers say their biggest revenue cycle concerns are patient collections. And that falls almost exactly in line with what our poll was just a minute ago. The majority of you said almost that very same thing, which is very difficult. 69% of providers saw an increase in patient responsibility compared to 2017. So we can see that just based on this data alone, that there is a tremendous shift happening to patients having to pay more of their healthcare bills, right? What's causing the shift, though? Let's just talk about that for a second. It starts with high deductible health plans. High deductible health plans are requiring patients to meet higher minimums, which means that as a provider or practice, you can't plan on getting any kind of reimbursement from insurance companies until those minimums are met. To go along with that, and you can read through these statistics here, to go along with that, you're facing another barrier. You've got value-based care, right? Value-based care is causing an increase in administrative costs for your practices. You're having to spend more time to collect and submit quantitative data on your patient's experience in order to receive reimbursements. That data that you have to submit to the payers are going to determine your reimbursement. So not only are you having to wait longer for the patient to meet those high deductibles, you're having to spend more time and cost to prove that they had a good experience at your practice. So it's just taking longer for you guys to get paid, and it's just not right. You guys are too good at what you do and make too much of an effort to take care of your customers, your patients, for this to happen. So that's why we're having this discussion today, this webinar, to help you find ways to do this. The next slide I'm going to share with you, they're not so much causes to shifts, but they're influencers to the shift. And that is that there are more and new consumer preferred communication and payment methods, right? Electronic communications are changing the way that consumers and patients want to pay their bills. Texting, emails, online options, all these electronic communication methods and technologies are just changing the way that consumers want and prefer to pay bills. And then the last one is how these new review platforms that are out there are making the experience at a practice more transparent. The consumer experience is more how patients review and recommend everything about their experience, from check-in and registration to their engagement with providers and nurses, their post-care communication, the education they receive from you guys about how they can pay their bills, or how they can, what their medication options are, and how to go through therapy, all these things tied to education. So giving reviews is one of the biggest drivers on how consumers, or in this case patients, are making decisions today with how they interact with their practices. So since they're paying more and being billed more, patients have higher customer service expectations, and they want things done their way. And that's a critical point. I think that's probably the first critical point, is higher costs are resulting in higher expectations from the customer or patient. So let's get into it, all right? Let's get into how we eliminate these barriers. But first, I want to launch another poll. So watch your screens here. And that is, what % of your total practice revenue today comes from patient responsibility? We know it's a challenge for you, but how much are you really relying on it today for your practice? Get another 15 seconds here. We got about, oh, there we go. We have much higher participation in this poll. This is great. I'll give it 5, 4. All right, let's close the poll and see what you guys had to say. It's about where we thought it would be. Let me just share with you where we are on that. Majority of you voted that 21 to 40% of your practice revenue is relying on patient responsibility. 13%, this is new to me, almost 13% are relying on almost 81 to 100% of patient responsibility for practice revenue. Wow. Yeah, you guys, I feel bad for you guys. All right, we're going to help you. Let's get into it. This is how we're going to help you. We're going to give you 4 suggestions on how to overcome these barriers. So, number 1, it starts with improving your communication with your patients. All right. So patients need to know what their options are going to be when it comes to receiving communications, bills, and payment requests from your practice. A lot of practices make the mistake of assuming that they can just send an email or send a text or use an IVR system or use the statement and all these communication methods that are available to you to barrage the patient with communication options. And although those are all great options and tools, if the patient doesn't know how to expect to receive it from you, they're going to be very hesitant about it. It's sad but true, and it's kind of comedic, really, that even if you send a text, if the patient didn't expect that text coming from your practice, because of the way cell phones are used for spam calls, so scam calls, they just don't know if they don't know what to expect, that they're not going to receive it well. So they have to know upfront from you how to expect to be communicated with. Number two, you have to communicate with them the way they want to be communicated with. 71% of patients say they prefer to receive an electronic form of communication, specifically their bills. They want it via email, they want it via text, because that's just the generation we live in, right? But only 17% of patients are receiving their statements the way they want them. You can expand your communication methods. So we named a few of these options for you, but it does start with the in-office, at the point of care option that you guys have. Patient comes and checks in, you present the copay. There's your first chance to explain what their communication and billing methods are going to be. You can use your patient statement, a guaranteed method of communication. Even though they might not want it, I know we're saying to use electronic means, but you still got to use the printed or mailed statement as an option, because it's guaranteed delivery communication. They have to physically handle that envelope and statement. Even if they want to throw it in the trash, they have to physically handle it. So it's almost a guaranteed method of communication. So you can use your statements to put messages on. And you've got options today of not only adding messages on the statement itself, but you can add inserts and onserts and backers to your statement that make it more appealing to the patient to handle. You've got patient portals, your websites, emails, texts. IVRs is a funny one. When that one came in as a preferred communication method, I was kind of confused by it, but then I thought, what's sad but true is that we don't want to talk to each other anymore. All these communication methods listed here are nonverbal communication interactions, except for the in-office one, of course. But IVR is that interactive voice response phone system where you type 1 to do this and type 2 to do that. But sadly, patients, consumers, we just don't want to interact with each other verbally. So that's almost one of the preferred communication options. So eliminating the barriers to getting paid and improving patient payment starts with communication. Provide upfront what the options are going to be and how to expect to receive it. Then communicate in the way they prefer, and then take advantage of all the methods that are available to you today. All right, point number 2. You have to communicate and collect money up front at the point of care. If you can communicate your billing and payment policies before or at the time the patient is receiving care, you can avoid a lot of awkward conversations and post-care hassles of trying to collect. Which leads me to the second bullet on this point, which is be transparent upfront about how you allow revenue to be collected. If you can collect an upfront payment, set that expectation with the patient at the time they're receiving care, collect that copay, the technology that's available to you today, even through your existing BillFlash account, allows you to create more successful post-care recurring billing. I'll explain a use case for that. So a patient comes in, you explain your copay policy, you collect a copay. If you're using the right payment methodologies, you can process the copayment, have the credit card or debit card or check that was used for that copay stored on file. What that allows you to do now is, when there's a post-care balance, is set up with the patient knowing this is going to be the expectation. You can create automated payment plans, for example. You can avoid those awkward questions of how are you going to pay your post-care bill? Instead of asking that, you can say, are you going to pay your post-care bill with the cash or the credit card we have on file? Okay, great. You want to use a credit card on file? We can set up payment plans automatically. So you're kind of meeting the patient's expectations of not wanting to have, sadly, verbal interactions with you going forward. and just know that they're going to get billed $50 a month until that post-care balance is paid. But if you're doing this up front, you're going to be more successful for that post-care ongoing and recurring balance payment options. All right. All right, number 3. We're going to start with a poll, another poll. We love polls because we get interaction with you. How many payment methods does the average U.S. consumer prefer to use? What do you think that is? What do you think? How many payment options and methods does the average U.S. consumer prefer to use? So far we have 25%. There we go. We're up to 50%. I like this. I like this a lot. I'm going to close the poll in 10 seconds. We're at 88% here. 5 more seconds here. Okay. All right, great guys. I'm going to share this with you so you can see that most of you have voted that you as consumer prefers at least 2 payment methods when it comes to paying their bills. And then the second majority of you responded with just 1 payment. I'm going to share with you the statistics on that, which are 70% of U.S. consumers use at least 3 different methods. That's not even preferring to use, they just use 3 different methods. How is that even possible? Are there even 3 different methods to pay bills each month? The answer is yes, of course there is, and as BillFlash users, you know that to be true. Let's talk about what their bill options are first. Their billing options are starting with, you've got your print and mail, right? We talked about how that's a guaranteed method of communication with your customers, with your patients, because they have to physically handle that envelope. So take full advantage of what your options are with those statements, inserts, backers, onserts, messages on the face of it. And then, of course, their preferred method of receiving bills is electronically. Electronic alone, you've got options of sending them via email and coming soon via text. As long as they know that that's the way it's coming. But what about payments? What about making the physical payment? Are there really 3 different payment methods? Yes, there is. Let's start with in-office. In-office alone has a multitude of payment methods. You've got cash, you've got check, you've got credit card. With credit card alone, you've got Apple Pay, Android Pay, Google Pay, Samsung Pay, right, on their phone. They want to use their phones. You've got debit cards, standard credit cards, and rewards cards. Chip and PIN cards are the different methods. So in Office alone, you've got right there, I think I counted 6 or 7 different payment methods that you can present to a patient to use. And again, if you're presenting the options that they prefer and want to use, you're more likely to get paid and have a satisfied patient. Well, then you've got online payment methods, right? 86% of patients, according to the RevCycle Black Book report, want to pay their bills online. So if you're not making that an option, you're pretty likely not going to get paid. How do you present an online payment method? We can show you, but it starts with sending a bill electronically. That's one way. Or having on your printed mail statement a link to an online payment form, whether it's on your website or using BillFlash's My Provider link, which we can get into here in a little bit. But right now, 29% of all online payments are happening over a smartphone. That could mean that it's being via text message, or somebody's receiving an email on their phone and they click the Pay Now button. I can tell you that me personally, if I'm sitting and watching my son play basketball and I get a text that I have a balance of $100 and I can tie that balance to a bill, I'll pay it right then. Like, I don't want to go home and write a check and stick it in the mail. I don't want to log into a portal. I'm going to hit that Pay Now button every time and just take care of it and get it done. So again, You have the multitude of options here to deliver patients the way they want to pay you. If you're doing that, they'll pay you. Stored card payments we talk about, right? When they pay your copay, store that credit card on file and avoid those awkward conversations that none of us are really trained to have because we're trained to provide healthcare. Store that card payment on file or checking account payment on file. Avoid the awkward conversation and use that as a tool for more successful recurring payments. Monthly payment plans and automated payment plans. I want to get into that as the number 4. As the number 4 barrier to eliminate. Going back to the very beginning of this webinar, we shared with you a statistic that there's high deductible health plans that because patients are having to pay more, higher billing volumes are making it difficult for patients to be able to pay their bills. So you've got to give them the option of breaking that high volume post-care bill up, right? Break it into smaller segments, smaller payment amounts broken out over time. And you can use automated billing and payment methods and tools to do that. So it doesn't require more work on your part. If any of you are administrators, there's tools out there that automate this. And if you use those tools, you're reducing your costs and time. You're providing a patient-preferred method that they want to use to pay their bills, and that automation is getting you paid. Okay? All right. Now, I shared with you at the beginning that we were going to throw a lot of trends and statistics. If any of you are wanting a fact sheet with all of these on one page, just shoot us an email and let us know, and we can shoot it to you so you have it summarized for you. I know it's a lot of data, but I want to share one more with you before we start to wrap this up. 73% of providers report that it takes longer than 1 month to collect from patients. We did a use case with all of these trends and data that we shared with you today in this webinar with some of our customers that use BillFlash. And this is what we found. We're going to just share one of them with you. Providers that use BillFlash's e-pay services have noticed a 60% increase in patient payments within the first 30 days. Can you even fathom that? Even fathom getting 60% of your patient payments paid within 30 days. That just means right here, there's a ton of data here. That means that there was less time and less effort, patient-preferred methodologies that were used to reduce your costs, your efforts, and to increase your cash flow within 30 days. The amount of money that we found as a result of this case study was on average $12,000 in increased cash flow. Can you imagine what you can do with $12,000 for your practice? New equipment, bonuses, right? It's the holiday times, year-end bonuses. That's a lot of money. That's a lot of increase in cash flow. And if that builds up over time, that's just substantial revenue coming back into your practice. Now, as BillFlash, we cater to the independent provider market. We're trying to help the independent providers stay in business and avoid mergers and acquisitions and absorptions of their practice so they can continue to do what they love to do. These tools that we have can help you guys do this. We have developed BillFlash in a way that makes it easier for you to have to eliminate going out and having to contract with multiple vendors, right? You've got your software, you've got your revenue cycle management, payer reimbursement services, you've got your payment processing, merchant account services, which are several pieces in and itself. And you got BillFlash, and you got billing, and you got communications. BillFlash has built tools into its platform so that you don't have to have one contract, one point of contact for customer service, one bill for all the tools and services that you need to bill, collect, and process payments. So, you know, one of the things I want to share with you from my experience the last 10 years in payments and healthcare is that there's a lot of payment processors out there, merchant account providers. You might have a credit card processing account for your practice today, and you might have tools to send a text message to your patient with a balance. And so maybe you're using some of these tools. Maybe you are sending electronic statements via email and text. But I can tell you from my experience this last decade that patients don't just want a balance texted to them. They don't want to just know that they owe you $100. They want to know why they owe you $100. And that's the secret to the success of this that I found since joining BillFlash back in April. If you can tie that balance in your communication effort to the patient to a bill, if they can know why they owe you $100, they'll pay the bill, as long as that payment option is presented in a way that they prefer to pay you, which again, close to 90% of them want to pay you electronically and online. So just a little insight there from my experience. What we want to do for you guys, just to wrap this up, is you know, so I showed you that, you know, we talked about how BillFlash can make this easier for you by providing all of the different tools and services into one single-use interface. What we want to do, I'm going to just get to this. The first 10 of you on this demo to send us an email or call us or go to this website for a demo of our payment processing services integrated with our billing, will receive a $20 Amazon gift card. All right. So I'm going to leave this slide up for a second. If you want to write this down or snapshot it, send us an email, give us a call, go to that website and fill out the form. Yeah.
I don't think the correct screen is showing. It's still showing the summary.
Let's see. Is this it? Right there.
There it is.
There we are. This email address, thank you, James, or phone number or website, give us a call, send us an email, spend 10 minutes with us to see a demo, and you get $20. It's a great time of year to get $20 on Amazon for some last-minute shopping. You'll know it's coming your way. But let us show you how we can help you. We can make it so much easier by providing all these tools we talked about today. So in summary, I'll come back to this in just a second. In summary, it starts with improving your communication. Make sure they know how they're going to be communicated with and communicate with them the way they want. Take advantage of all the methodologies that are out there. Communicate up front. Take some money up front. Use that technology that's available to create more successful ongoing and post-care billing. Provide the different payment options that they prefer, and then automate it for larger balances, and you will start to see these barriers break down and more cash flow coming into your practice. I promise you that from my own personal experience. So thanks for coming today. We will send a recording out to all those who have attended. James, do you have anything else you want to add before we close this up? Any questions that have come in?
I'm looking at any questions, but we're not seeing any specific questions, but those can be submitted through the email address or by calling us anytime. But like Richard said, we'll be sending out a recording so you can have this as well.
Yeah, great. Well, we hope to hear from some of you today so we can send out this gift card, and we want to wish you all happy holidays and happy new year. Thanks for spending time with us today. And thanks for being a customer of BillFlash.
Thanks, everyone. We'll be ending the call now. Goodbye.